Let's aim for a new low, buddy.
Hello, everybody! Welcome to another episode of the Atlantic Bushcraft Adventures. Tonight, episode 41, and we're going to be chatting about ultralight camping. So, this was your idea, actually, there, Ben. So, why don't you jump into it? Maybe give a little description of what ultralight camping actually is.
Well, first off, let's say this is going to be ultralight Atlantic bushcraft style because I don't think either of us are capable of reaching true ultralight. But the general consensus when I've done research over the last few years on ultralight is you're aiming for without consumables a pack that's less than 15 pounds. Now, me and you've been trying pretty hard to get under 50 for quite a while.
Yeah,
Is,
and that
is this not?
just has not happened. Like I said, I don't know anything about ultralight camping. I just what I've learned in the last couple days while you and I've been talking, and I told you before we started, I don't even own stuff that would be considered ultralight or even able to go ultralight.
No, and I think a lot of us don't. Uh, when you really watch like the true ultralight campers, and I don't want to say an ultralight camper and a bushcrafter are two totally different things because I'm sure there are people who've melded the two of them together. But ultralight campers have some awesome concepts and ideas. And the nice thing about an ultralight kit, a kit that only weighs a few pounds, is you can kind of throw it on your back. You really won't know it's there, and you can get out for a few days and do something. And in that case, I'd say yes, they are 100% bushcrafting. Uh, but when you look a bit more into it, a lot of these guys are minimalists in a lot of ways, and are really not so much into doing things when they're out there, but just getting out as far as they can, covering as great a distance as they can, and they're movers, they're distance coverers, and by cutting your pack down to a very light weight, you can cover greater distance easier and rougher terrain easier. Um, and these are things that are definite pluses. If you have a lake or a stream or a neat spot you want to check out that's further back, if you're not dragging a 30 or 40-pound pack, or in some cases a 50-pound pack when you throw our camera gear and stuff in there.
I was gonna say you're talking about ultralight when you're hitting the 30-pound pack for me.
um, but so to try and do this, just to see like what can I do with what I have, because I've picked up a little bit of gear that's kind of lightweight, and what do I got? So I took my two favorite packs and I weighed them out, and one of them, the pack alone, with nothing attached to it, just bare bones, comes at just shy of 5 pounds. So immediately, one third of my weight is shot. So I said, okay, that's not good. So I weighed the other one, and it's about 3 pounds. So I saved 2 pounds by just going to this other pack. Um, there's a couple of add-ons I normally have on it. Each of those weigh almost a half a pound themselves. So then I'm still only down a pound, but I can drop one of those if I want. So the pack I chose was actually one Tigris Bushcrafter. I think I've talked about that. And this is not an ultralight pack.
No, but it's much like my pack. When anybody's seen that, it's got a lot of options available to you though, right? Because it has some of the Molly stuff on it.
Yeah, it has a lot of moly, which has its weight in itself. It's a fairly thick, heavy canvas. Um, and if you're doing true backwoods stuff, like with a true ultralight pack, you're probably talking maybe something that's made of nylon or uh, Dyneema, something that's really thin, lightweight. I mean, it's strong, but it's probably not going to take a ton of dragging through thick brush and getting hit by thorny bushes and stuff. So there's a trade off we're going to have with this.
I was gonna say when I seen once again just what I've learned about ultralight, it seems like these guys that are going ultralight are always on trails of some sort. Very few of them are bombing it through the woods, which is my
No,
classic stick. You know what I mean?
so yeah, a lot of them are through hikers and the like there, right? Again, they're trying to do some distance. They're on a trail. They are in the woods. They are seeing rivers and streams and lakes and trails. But In comparison, I think me and you, for instance, we might try to do completely off trail. We might choose a bearing from a spot and just say we're going to beeline it through the woods and see what we see and do what we do. I mean, we did that the first trip we went. There were trails to get where we wanted. We knew where we were to, and we knew where we wanted to go, and we just beat through it. We seen some kind of interesting spots. We had to avoid some rougher terrain, but it's something we kind of enjoyed. And with a more rugged pack, I think we were both more comfortable doing that. Had the pack been a little bit more fragile, we might back off them. So yeah, that's the pack I chose to start with. Could I get a lighter pack? Sure. Do I need to spend $600 for a lighter pack? No. I think you could run down to Costco and pick up a Roots backpack for $30-something most times that would weigh less than this, carry a similar amount. It's going to be like a school backpack. And at that light weight, if you can get your weight down, you really don't need to worry about the extra straps and stuff like the waist strap and the sternum strap. They're going to be a little less important because you're not dragging a ton of weight. And if you read like
on that, and maybe you can give some input onto this, and I'm sorry for interjecting on you, was
no,
for a lower pack like that, and you're going longer distance, is the comfortability going to be there? Like, are you going to be comfortable with this pack? Would be my concern. Most of the people I've seen with the ultralights, they still got the sternum, they still got the waist, but like you said, they're made of a more lightweight material. My worry would be over long distances. If you didn't have at least like a waist strap, you get a lot of chafing and riding out of it. What's your thoughts?
You could, and I think you'd really have to play with that and see your own needs. But the books I've read on a lot of these ultralight guys, they'll cut any strap they're not using completely off. They will, if they need a 36-inch, say, strap to go around their waist, they will cut it at 36 inches. They won't leave extra 2-3 inches to adjust lengths or anything.
Is that
they have it?
No, is that just solely for saving weight?
Yeah. These guys, well, a lot of them will take tags off. They wouldn't have patches like I have the one Tigris little patch here that weighs something. I have the Nova Scotia Bushcraft patch on here that weighs something. They pull all that. The strings on the zippers, if they don't need it, they cut it off. So there's a lot of things you can do to get your weight down a bit, even on the gear you have. Anything you're not using, remove. But I love that modular. I love.
Don't look at me. Not an English major here. You got yourself into this.
I love the fact that it's a modular pack, and I can change it every trip. It doesn't have to be the exact same thing. And I don't want to spend the whole time talking about packs, but yeah, I went with my lightest pack. Still not a lightweight pack. The reason I'm going with it is A, I own it, and B, is it is a durable, good pack.
Well, owning it is a very key important part. You don't want to steal it.
So we could drop this down a bit. The next big thing, you're going in for an overnight trip, that I wanted to think about was my sleeping bag. Now, we're in the winter. Our temperatures are ranging right now anywhere from about 10 degrees Celsius to probably -10 at this present time. And this is not unusual for really the rest of the winter right now. We can easily expect the temperatures to range in that temperature range and go maybe as low as -20, 25 on the coldest. And we can hit mid-teens easily in the plus anywhere between now and March.
I'm actually just looking online to see what tonight's going to be, just for reference. And I think you were right on the head. I think it's supposed to be -9 or something like that. I mean, that's a big, like, imagine being out and yesterday, 14 degrees, I think it was here. And right now it's sitting at -7 with a low of -10. Sorry.
So that's the ballpark. So the sleeping bag I chose was the one Tigris Nordic Defender. Now I'm not intentionally choosing one Tigris gear here. If they pick up on this or anyone does, I happen to have it. It's good gear. I've tested that sleeping bag a couple of times this year. I do like it. So that is a down sleeping bag. So it's about one of my lightest ones, and it's rated to -15 with a sleeping bag liner. I could probably get a few more degrees out of that. And then I'll wear good warm clothes. So that's my choice. That almost half filled my pack. Very compressible. I could probably get a bit more stuff out of that. So that was what I chose there.
And
We've
what
talked
did
a
that put
bit
your
about,
weight to? Because I know that came in, that's about a 3-pound sleeping bag?
I believe that's about where it's sat. I just sort of weighed the whole system, and the whole system right now, everything I'm going to talk about, falls in at just under 17 pounds right now. There's a few things I can do to probably get that down, and this is what we will discuss a bit about. So like I said, I had my sleeping bag and my liner. I chose a tarp. The tarp I chose is the One Tigris Anchorage. Again, another One Tigris product. I did a review. I think you posted that up a little while ago.
Yep, just a day or so ago.
Just a day or so ago. I know also that Jeremy has an awesome review of that same tarp. Could I get a lighter one? Yes, but this one has zippers on the end. It has big coverage. Potentially, I think I worked out I could have 2 people sleeping under this tarp. So I do have smaller tarps. I do have tarps that may weigh a little less. In the winter, this is going to give me the best shelter I'm going to probably get right now with the gear I have. So this is the one I chose. Plenty of room for 2 people plus gear, in my opinion, and doesn't weigh a ton. It's one of my smallest packable tarps, so I went with that. The other item I chose was my mat, my Ecotech, I think, Hybrid 8. Fairly lightweight, very compressible. Again, we've talked about this in the past, so that was what I grabbed. For a ground sheet, because this thing has no bathtub, I chose, maybe you can get lighter than this. I probably could if I went with just a plastic bag, actually. But I chose this here. This is a tarp from the dollar store, a drop cloth style tarp. Costs $4. It's fairly waterproof. I think it's 4 feet wide by 10 feet long. So you can cut it down. I've decided not to because I can flip the tail up over my feet. And I can have enough width that I can sort of like bunch it up on the sides in case there's water or moisture risks on the side. So a little bigger than I possibly need. I could save a few ounces by cutting it. Maybe we'll talk about that. But doesn't take up a ton of room. Is fairly light. I don't think you'd get a ton lighter until, like I said, if you went with maybe a plastic bag or an emergency blanket, maybe would weigh less and be a little bit more packable, but they are a bit less durable. This is relatively durable. So that's pretty well my sleep system. Add on to that, I got a first aid kit and some toilet paper. I can't see giving up much on that. I chose a stove. The stove I chose was a penny stove. I don't think you're going to find a lighter stove.
No, probably not. Those are some of the smallest, and by penny stove, you just mean, for anybody that's not familiar with the term, it's a homemade alcohol stove. There's a ton of tutorials online how to do them. If you just check out YouTube, I think we may even talked about it once in one of our previous podcasts, but that's what Ben's talking about when he says penny stove.
So it's literally the bottom 1.25 inches of 2 pop cans pushed into each other with some holes pushed around the outside edges. You pour a bit of alcohol or methyl ethyl hydrate or fondue fuel, whatever you want, into it, and you can boil a couple of cups of water in a few minutes, and they weigh, like I said, virtually nothing. The way I designed mine, I can put the pot right on top of it. I didn't take like a windscreen or anything, so I'll need to do something in the woods there, pile some rocks or something around it. But I'm trying to keep my weight light. And that's, like I said, you're not going to beat that. The pot I chose is an aluminum pot. I could get a smaller, lighter pot, maybe go titanium and go to like a 750 mil or maybe even up to a liter. The one I chose, I measured it the other day, is an aluminum pot I got off, I think it's Country Kitchen on Amazon. If we can, maybe we'll link to it. I'll find it later.
Okay.
But it's
Just want
like
to make one point, just while it's up. Chris Lovelace said, use leaves to reduce weight of toilet paper. My 2 cents on that is it's great during the summer. During the winter here in Eastern Canada, all you have is pine cones. And trust me, you'll appreciate the toilet paper.
Yeah, I've heard too. Like in the winter, snow isn't too bad. I'm gonna say that unfortunately, even if that was a great option for me, half the time here in Nova Scotia, you can't guarantee to find snow. We get a lot of freeze, a lot of thaw. The ground is very damp and wet. You're not sure what terrain you're gonna. Like I said, sometimes it's a lot of pine, no leaves available. Might find moss. Could be fairly rocky. I have a solid core piece of toilet paper. It doesn't weigh that much. I'm going to carry it. But yes, there are other options out there. You want to really get your weight down. It's a comfort item for me. So that was a pot. For fire starter, I took a single ferro rod, and I believe the correct term is a slow match. I think I sent you some photos of one a little while ago. It's literally a piece of twine I soaked in wax and pulled through a cut-off section of a metal straw. Flatten it out, rough it up a little bit, spark it off. I tried them the other night. I made 3. Almost first shot of the ferro rod, first good spark I got, hit it, lit up. You can control the flame. I hate to see that.
What's that?
I got the poor connection warning.
You are looking okay on my side. We still have good
went
connection
away
online, so it might just be between you. You're still streaming all right, so keep on going.
So, now, don't mean to talk super fast. I just wanted to get through this so we can kind of get really into this discussion. So, that's my fire lighter. Between that and the stove, that's how I'm going to cook. Most of my cooking will probably happen directly on fire anyways. I've found, we've talked about this, the last half dozen trips or so, I think if I've taken a stove, I haven't used it. Or if I have, it's been minimal use. I almost think it's a kit I could get away with, but water kit. I have my Sawyer Mini and the bag system plus a bottle. So there's probably, I could narrow that down a little bit, get rid of a couple of the bags that come with it. I wouldn't give up on my syringe, but I could, I guess.
I actually have a picture of the slow match up. You just keep talking. I'm going to flip it up so people have an idea what you're talking about there.
Yeah. Okay. So there it is. Not a lot to it. Again, you really want to save weight. Maybe you'd cut an inch or so off of that thing, or maybe 4 or 5 inches. I think that's the better part of 30 inches anyways on that one. And the steel tube is probably 2.5 to 3 inches long. So that's my water kit. The only other things I have right now in the pack that we can talk about, I got a fork, knife, and spoon. Those are all titanium. Maybe I don't need the knife. I have the other 2 items I have is my actual knife. I chose the Meyer Companion, and the saw. It's pretty one of my favorite, the Agua Cannon Boreal 21. That is probably one of my heaviest pieces of kit, honestly. That's it. That's all I've thrown in there. Is there something you think I'm missing? Like, I think I could do it with that. I don't know if I'd need anything else. Obviously.
No, I think you got the basics off it there. Like I said, and that's the true spirit of Ultralight, I guess, is you are going with the bare bone basics of anything you want to do. That's the bare bones. I mean, without getting too far into it, I keep thinking that every time you cut down on something, you're sacrificing. But it's kind of the whole point of it, isn't it? I guess like you are trying to get to that ultralight, ultra minimalistic amount. That way you can put more kilometers on your feet as you're going.
Yeah. Uh, and there's stuff that we all take that maybe we don't need to. I would argue that generally you don't need to take tent pegs. We like tent pegs, but the reality is, and I have titanium tent pegs over there somewhere. They're very lightweight, small. But the reality is, most places I go, I'm going to be able to find a couple of branches I can quickly cut in, up, and drive into the woods, into the ground as tent pegs. They work really fine. You could minimize your tarp weight by using, what is it, bank line, I think they call it, or
Yeah. Yeah. Bank line or tarred bank line, I guess, is the big common one that you always see people recommending, just because it adds a little bit more
tarp.
strength.
Yeah, tarp is kind of hard to find, but I mean those are lightweight. I've used this type of stuff. I mean, very lightweight, thin, as opposed to paracord or some of the lighter weight paracords, and dirt cheap. Like you can pick up a roll of this at the dollar store for $2, I think it is, and it would last you for a couple of years. Um, so something like that, you can minimize that stuff. I could just throw my water kit straight in my pack and not carry the extra pouch I have it in. There is a lot of room left in this pack right now. It doesn't. The whole admin front pouch is empty. There's probably 5 or 6 inches in the top that is pretty empty that I could shove in, and there's a lot of compression left in my sleeping bag area there, so I could really cram more stuff into it.
But as you said, you're already at the 17-pound mark, so or 15 pounds was it? I can't remember.
Just shy of 17 right now. I could probably get it to the 15-pound mark without giving up any particular items, just adjusting the pack and getting rid of some extra stuff. I have 2 straps on the bottom that I'm not using right now, so I could take those off completely. That would save me a few grams there.
But even at saving the weight, there's still lots of room there, is what I mean. You're not cramming everything into the pack, so it just goes to show when getting down to those weights, you're really not taking that much stuff with you.
No. And do you need it? We talked just before the show, like spare clothes. I like having spare clothes for cleanliness, for various other reasons. If you're going out for a single night wearing the same clothes in the woods for 2 days, it's not really that big of a deal, especially if it's only a couple of days. I almost always have a change of clothes back at the vehicle. So when I get out, if I decide I want to drop into a restaurant or something on the way home, especially if I'm driving a distance, I'm not going in smelling like I spent 4 or 5 days in the woods by myself, because
It's not pleasant. For anybody that's wondering what that smells like, it's not pleasant, and the other side of that is you hardly smell yourself, if that makes any kind of
yeah.
sense. You don't notice that you get an aroma. And it's not necessarily like body odor and stuff like that, but you get a very woodsy, wood smoke, earthy kind of aroma about you when you stay any extended time in the woods. It's not appealing to everybody.
So do I think that you could go into the woods with a relatively lightweight pack and enjoy yourself? Yes. What are you giving up? I mean, in the winter, it's dark. Right now, it's pretty well dark to almost 8 o'clock in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not really, by 5 o'clock, it's pitch again. So you don't have a lot of hours of sunlight. That means the only light you're going to have, because I don't have a flashlight, I don't have a lantern, would be the light I get off my fire. That's okay.
Yeah, I was just gonna say most times you don't tend to stay awake long when it's dark anyway when you're camping. And once again we mentioned this in a previous episode. It's one of those things you get back to very primitive internal clocks. You get up and you do your activities when there's light out, when there's not light. Even with a flashlight, it's difficult to do anything. So you get into that rhythm of, well, now it's sleep time.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. For me, I think it's easier with a buddy, or a friend or an acquaintance, whatever you want to call it. if you're out there with someone else, especially in the winter, you don't want to sleep 14 hours. You really don't.
No.
You will probably sleep more in the woods than you would. I see you laughing. Maybe you do want to sleep 14 hours. I don't know.
No. I
I
just mean even at my own bed, I wouldn't be able to sleep 14 hours. So
I'll, I'll sleep longer in the woods than I would in my own bed.
yeah, I would say that's kind of true. I get a better sleep in the woods a lot of times. Maybe not as comfortable, but a deeper sleep, a more meaningful sleep, if you will.
Yeah, agreed. That being said, 14. I don't know if I've ever slept shy of being sick for 14 hours straight. It's just not going to happen. Uh, it's great to have someone to chat with or talk to. Uh,
It
if
alleviates
nothing,
boredom.
oh yeah. Um, so that being said, yeah, you could take a book that's going to add to the weight, but maybe it's worth it. But again, you got no light, so that's not going to work. If you rely on your cell phone, that's only going to last for so many hours. Screen on time, even at lowest dim, I probably could only get 5, 6 hours, absolute max that I could see. So for reading or whatnot, uh,
The
so
other
you're
thing,
down.
sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say the other thing that a buddy may provide you is you might be able to split some gear again, but I get it going over in my head. There's not really much you could split there, minus maybe sharing a cooking pot, but now you're out of dish, so you'd have to bring a separate dish, or one person would have to eat at a time, or, I mean, I guess there's other options. You could cut a little bit more fat off with two people, but you're going to be getting into high inconveniences for what you save, I think.
Um, the two that'll jump to my mind is the tarp I have would handle 2 people plus gear, no problem.
Hmm.
So you could save that. I would recommend, like yourself, maybe 2 pots, but you could go with 2 fairly small pots. And then you could cook 2 different things at the same time. Like one person could do up like I don't do the rice or noodles, but one could do the rice and noodles. Someone else could do some meat or something else in the second container, and then sort of mix them after the fact.
Hmm.
Just divvy them up. Um, so yeah, there's some options there. The other thing is like my saw being one of the heaviest items on here. You don't need 2 saws, but I don't have an axe, and I normally have an axe. So if I went in with, say, we were doing an ultralight trip in 3 weeks, not a suggestion, just a statement, then maybe you would take an axe and I would take the saw.
Hmm.
That would give us more abilities without adding a ton of weight to either of our kits. But you're right, there's not a lot else there. I mean, my ground sheet's still too small to share. The first aid kit, yes, we could go with a single first aid kit.
Yeah, that's really the only places you could trim any fat out of that. Is save a little on the shelter and maybe a little on your cook stuff. A comment.
Water kit.
Water kit, I suppose. You would only have to do one water purification, but we'd each have to have our own water bottles, or should have our own water bottles, because you're going to need probably more water than one water bottle would put out for 2 people.
Yes, well, we could have the one water bottle, but you'd have to have each have a cup to pour into, because I don't think we'd want to share a bottle, like drink out of the bottle together.
No, but my worry would be if we were going long distances between water sources, because once again, ultralight's meant for covering ground. You may actually run out of drinkable water before you hit the next source, and you may be like, oh, it's not that much. But if you were going for extended periods of time running out of water, you slowly dehydrate yourself, even though you may superhydrate yourself when you stop, which is not necessarily a good idea. I'd really be worried if something happened, you might run out of water. To me, it would be worth having the second water bottle instead of a
Yeah, but
cups.
you only need the one filter. We'd only need the one dirty water bag, like the Woods ones that you picked up the other day, and I think you posted about those.
I did. Where'd they go? Oh, they're over there.
Yeah. So there are some things you could cut down on. Like I said, we could drop a few straps off my pack. We could get rid of some of the extra bags that I have, strap things externally, lower the weight. Probably could get it very much close to the 15-pound mark. with what I have. Could I get it even lower? 100%. But could I get it lower without spending a lot of money? That's the tricky part.
That's
Uh,
what I've seen too. Is ultralight is ultra expensive for the most part. Like if you want to do it right, I guess quote unquote right. Um, there's some high cost items there because you are paying for the convenience of things that are super light and durable. Because that's generally your trade off. Is if it's super light and it's cheap, it's generally not durable.
so my aluminum pot, it doesn't weigh that much. I could weigh it right now if you'd like, but it doesn't weigh that much, and it's fairly big, so it gives me a lot of options.
Mm.
Uh, but I have talked about it a bit with a buddy, and like he kind of pointed out, it is a bit overkill for one person. Why do I need a pot that weighs the better, or that's not weighs, but is the better part of 2 liters?
Yeah, it's a pretty big pot.
It is a big pot, but I have a family of 5, and if we all go for a trip, I can pretty well do an entire thing of craft dinner in this. I can feed the 5 of us with this one pot. If I had a 750 ml pot, it's perfect for one person. It's struggling for 3 or 4. 2 people you can manage. So
Chris made an interesting comment here. It's not really related to the topic, but still an interesting comment. We might as well address it. And he says, I have such a hard time sleeping in the woods. And then he's going to try and bring something with him for next time. But the main comment being having a hard time sleeping in the woods. You got any tips and tricks for maybe sleeping in the woods? Like, I don't know about you, but myself, I generally don't have that hard of a time sleeping in the woods if there's a little bit of noise going on around me. I find I have genuinely a harder time sleeping when it's dead silent. Like when you and I went out last time, and I was all curled up in that sleeping bag, I could literally hear my own heartbeat. And it drove me nuts. I was hoping that, a little bit of wind would pick up and cause some ripples in the water or a tree would blow. But I mean, it was dead quiet. And that was probably the only time in a long time I actually had a hard time falling asleep. And even then, I was still probably asleep in 20 minutes. Don't get me wrong. But
yeah, so before I forget, the pot right now with cover and bale, 0.62 pounds.
Yeah,
so
see,
a
that's
little
no
over
weight
half.
considering the size you got.
Yeah. The titanium pot that's smaller probably weighs a little bit less, but not a ton. Like this is a fairly good pot for what it is. It's not overly thick. It's aluminum. It's got a bit of a nonstick thing. It's got a baling wire on it. I have one picked out that I really like. I think we may have mentioned it at about $42, titanium. But I don't think I spent $20 on this pot. So bang for your buck, hard to beat it. Yeah, sleeping in the woods, I don't know, because when I go out in the woods, we tend to work a little bit. I'm walking and stuff. I'm personally very comfortable in the woods, so I'm not worried. I know some people are worried about animals and insects and different things. And if you have stuff going on in the back of your head, yes, that could definitely affect your ability to sleep. If you're not comfortable, you're not going to sleep. We're emotionally comfortable in the woods. We've built good sleep systems, so we're physically comfortable in the woods. And I really can kind of let the rest of the world go when I'm in the woods. So I'm not as concerned about what's going on everywhere else. So it's one of the places I probably relax the most. I sleep like a baby.
Oh, when I get to sleep, man, there is no sleep like sleeping in the woods.
No. And that's a personal thing. I can't say there's some trick or some hint that I can give someone and say, like, the best place you're ever going to sleep is in the woods. If you're not comfortable, if you're not confident in your safety, you're going to sleep very differently. And I guess all I can say is the more you do it, I think the better it's going to get for you. But that's not true for everyone. And I'm not going to lie. Some people, it's never going to be their thing. Other people will definitely find the same peace and serenity in the woods that me and you find. Some may surpass where we've reached, and feel more at home in the woods than anywhere.
No, I
And
completely agree. My only 2 cents, like I said, would be maybe try a little bit of music, some noise, just to kind of, I don't know, lull you to sleep. My one gripe is if it's too quiet, and that's just because when it gets quiet, for some reason, I think what literally what it was in the sleeping bags when I had to pull across my face. Your body flexes ever so slightly when your heart beats, and I swear it was my beard scratching on the sleeping bag, and it was just like a repetitive noise that was driving me nuts. And
yeah,
you ever hear the term "the silence was deafening"? That's kind of what it felt like. Like it was so quiet, it was just unnaturally quiet. It was super peaceful, but then when you're trying to sleep, you're just like, "This is unnaturally quiet."
and the more quiet it gets, ironically, the louder it gets. Like any noise is might as well be a freight train. Uh, so you go into some pretty deep woods and it's really quiet and there's a deer moving like 500-600 yards away. It's loud.
Mm.
Like it's shockingly loud. Squirrels and I don't know what the bird's name is. Probably should. It's just a little ground brown or gray brown ground birds. You know the ones I'm talking about. They're just walking around in the
Oh,
bush.
like ruffled grouse. That's one that runs around in
No,
the woods that sounds like a freight train
no,
going through. Are you talking like finches?
like more, yeah, more like the finch size or smaller, like just a little tiny ones. I've heard those guys make more noise in the woods than a moose. I mean, they're not in the leaves. They're flicking around looking for insects and stuff. Yeah, my head's going. But they're in there and they're just moving around. They move more brush and dirt and tree parts and branches, you name it. Like they're just these loud little things in the woods. And if you don't know what they are, you could put yourself into a stressor, thinking there's something coming after you, but it's nothing, right?
I just seen your comment there, Chris. Are you suggesting a finch or wondering what a finch is? Just comment back up there. Because if you're wondering what a finch is literally just a tiny little bird. They only stand maybe 4 or 5 inches tall. They only weigh like 8 to 12 grams, something like that. They're a tiny bird, but they can make a ton of noise.
Yeah. There's a ton of little tiny birds that are in the woods. Some of which I'm familiar with, some not. I know like the gray jays and stuff, they're about 3 times as big as the bird I'm thinking about. They make quite a bit of noise too. Chickadees are a good kind of example, same size anyways. But I don't think it's the chickadee that I'm thinking about that makes the noise.
Nah, they tend to not hit the floor much. They just kind of buzz from tree branch to tree branch. But you already mentioned it, but a squirrel. Squirrel sounds like it's
Squirrel.
literally a truck.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and if he sees you and he doesn't like you, you definitely know it because he's up there yelling at you.
Oh yeah,
Just
squirrels give you away every time.
yeah. There's a lot of animals that will. The gray jay will tell on you. The squirrels will tell on you. And then like a loon's voice carries forever. Now it I think is generally oblivious to your existence unless you get within like 50 feet of it.
Mm.
But yeah, he gets out in the lake and he's singing. I mean, that's a pretty distinct and beautiful sound. Man, we're a little off topic.
Yeah,
Just
kind
the
of
sound.
bailed off topic there. But anyway, ultralight camping. So we pretty much went through your pack. We figured out the necessities of what you need. Gave some suggestions where you could kind of cut maybe a little bit more weight. But at that point, you're not cutting any great weight. You're literally trimming fat at that point. Like you're trimming off ounces, not pounds.
Yeah, well, and that's the game of ultralight. It's never about dropping pounds. I mean, there's two ways to get your pack lighter. The first is to buy lighter gear. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. If you have a cast iron pot and you can go to an aluminum pot, you can save probably pounds. If you go to the titanium pot from that aluminum pot, you can save grams. And every gram adds up. It takes 454 grams to make a pound, though, so you need a lot. But the gram weenies, I mean, I've heard them cut the handles off the toothbrush, because why do you need a 6-inch toothbrush when a 3-inch will kind of do?
Why do you need to save a half a gram would be my rebuttal to that. But I mean, I guess if you're going, it's a thing. It is a thing. Like trying to get that ultra low weight, it is a thing.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's a real thing. It's a great pursuit. I really do think it's a great pursuit. Dropping the kit you take and going to a lighter kit is a bit of a game changer in your woods, because it really makes you concentrate on your skills. When you take bigger, better, heavier gear, and I use better sort of in quotation marks, you can sort of relax some of your skills.
Like
some people talk
when instead of a fire steel, to quote Jeremy, you're not practicing a skill, you're just using a tool.
Yeah. But if you could get rid of the fire steel altogether and go to a fire lighting device that you can make in the woods, like if you just went in with your knife and you could make a friction fire, that's a bigger saving still, and a higher skill level. Right? Every piece of gear you can give up. Instead of using the big fire steel, if you go down to just a little tiny flint and steel, like the one on the wheel.
Yeah.
So I've seen one of these where it has the piece of string sticking out of it, like almost like a lantern lighter without the fuel, and it's just one little rotary thing and a piece of string stuck on a. And it must be a wax string or something, very similar to the slow match I got.
I know
there.
You don't got the comments there, but we actually talked a little bit about that in the comments, called a trench match or a sailor's match.
Yeah.
Or torch,
yeah.
maybe. I can't remember.
That's, in a lot of ways, even lighter than your fire steel. I mean, some guys are carrying the 1/2 inch by 6-inch long ferro rod. That's not light.
No, that's a couple. That was a couple ounces when I weighed mine, like significant ounces.
Go to the light my fire one. I think the rod on that's probably like 3/16 across and 3 inches long. It's not very big at all. You can light a fire with that. Is it going to last as long? No.
But it's probably going to last for the duration of your trip.
Exactly right. So, yeah, the fire steel I got is a little over 1/4 inch and probably to 3 inches long, 4 inches anyways. And it has a small file on it. I could get rid of that and use the back of my knife. So there's things I can save even there. But yeah, it's my attempt. Is it a perfect attempt? Can we improve? 100%. I'm sure we can. But like we said, it's going to start adding money. And not all of us have hundreds of dollars more that we can spend on our camping gear.
Jeremy's not here. I'd be picking on him right now, but he's not here to defend himself, so I can't say anything. It's no fun. But
no.
Yeah, that's kind of the intro to the Ultralight for anybody wondering, because it was new to me. I heard the term, didn't really understand it. So our time's pretty much blown through there, Ben. Is there anything you wanted to say in closing to that?
Not so much about the Ultralight. Tell us what you got. Tell us how low you can get your gear. Tell us things you would suggest that I change. I mean, we've gotten some. I am going to look into each of those suggestions later. I look at the comments after the video more. Anything that's catches Robert's attention, he usually shares during the videos. I don't know if anyone noticed. I got a new shirt on. This isn't going to be reversed on everyone, is it? Can you see the back?
Turn a little bit more and you'll be able to see it a little better. There you go. So yes, this is a shirt that we have created for the Atlantic Bushcraft Adventures. Ben is modeling it there for us. So yeah, those are potentially coming to be available for us in the near future. Is that safe to say? If there's enough interest, I should say.
there's enough interest. Missy G makes. We'll throw her a little thing. She's sort of designed and made this shirt for us. She's potentially going to produce more for us. So that's the plan. Check her out if you want. But yeah, we have this. We have some other ideas, potentially hats or other things. But anyone has any?
Right over there. We have shown them on previous episodes as well.
So. Yeah, so we can do more of those potentially. If there's something someone's interested in, please, by all means, reach out to us. We're more than happy to consider or potentially make. If there's enough interest, we can make a bunch. If there's a little bit of interest, we can make the odd custom piece. Prices will vary depending on demand and interest. But yeah, no. Yeah, we won't go too much deeper there. Yeah, get out there, try things, share with us what you have, what you like, what interests you. Is ultralight something you would even consider? Do you consider weight when you go camping? Is it even a factor for you?
All right. That's pretty much it for me as well. I don't have anything to add to that, Ben. Like I said, I was just kind of tagging along for the ride on this one. You were the expert. But I did learn quite a bit, actually, just by talking to you right there. I had no previous other than hearing the term ultralight camping, I wasn't too familiar with it. I did a little bit of research on it. Ben helped me along with it. It's definitely a niche market, in my opinion. There's definitely people out there that are passionate about it, and if it's something you may be passionate about or interested in, feel free to ask us some questions. We'll answer it as best as we can, or Ben will answer it as best as he can, more specifically. Or just check online. There is forums, there's videos, there's groups. It's a real thing. It's a real thing, and it looks like it could be a lot of fun if that is your thing.
I have books on it. There's 4 or 5 authors out there that have released books on ultralight camping. And it covers things down to they don't take toothpaste. They actually
charcoal.
No.
Okay.
They take regular toothpaste. They put like a drop on a piece of like wax paper and leave it for a few days so it dries up to little tiny buttons. And they'll take like a button for each time they plan on brushing their teeth. So if they're going to brush their teeth 3 times a day or 4 times a day, they take 4 drops because they don't want the moisture that came with it. And they don't want the tube because taking a whole tube. Same thing with soap. They'll have allocated out exactly how much soap they're going to use. They'll allocate exactly how many grams of fuel they plan on using. So if they're taking 3 meals, they're taking 3 ounces of fuel because an ounce will boil the X amount of water
So there's a lot of thought behind it if you get into it. And that's what I mean. There is a passionate group out there. And if you're interested in it, there's all kinds of resources for you.
For sure. Yeah. Thanks to everyone who listened. Especially thanks to anyone who's commented or made suggestions. We love hearing from everyone. Get out there, have fun. Hopefully we'll see you guys out there soon. Me and Robert are hoping to get out again soon, I hope. But in the meantime, we have a lot of things we're working on. And looking forward to sharing with you in the near future.
Hey, everybody. Have a good night. Get out there. Get dirty. Play safe.